My name is Paul Shelley, and welcome to The AstroHistorian. This is a channel dedicated to exploring and explaining the lore of sci-fi and space universes and discussing their impact. Today, we're on the floor of IAE 2955 to talk about Crusader and Tumbril. Welcome to the Lore Tours. This is where I go onto the floor of IAE or Invictus, and we talk about the manufacturers on the floor, their history, and then talk about the history behind some of the ships. We're gonna go pretty much right into it. We're good to go. Here we have folks on the floor. Hopefully they can hear me in game. Because I do have it on voice activation now. Probably not, but we'll see. Anywho, we've been having some issues there. Here on the floor with a couple of folks here. Let me make sure I may have to hit the voice active, not voice activation. I may have to do actual. Go. All right, so let me change this real quick. Options, comms. All right, so hopefully you can hear me in game now. So what we're going to be doing is we're going to talk a little bit about Tumbril and Crusader. Now, Tumbril doesn't have any vehicles on the floor this year, so we'll talk a little bit about them, and then we'll move on to talk about Crusader and then look at the ships. All right. So, Tumbril Land Systems was founded in, I'll turn this music off. Was founded in 2536 on Yar in the Centauri system, between Kavaya and Crosby and Aaron Dews, who were the children of employees who worked for the University of Saisei. Kavaya her parents worked as maintenance for a research facility on Yar, and Aaron Dews' mother worked as a professor at the University of Saisei doing research using the facility that Kavaya grew up in. Through their time growing up together, they kind of grew closer, fell in love, and got married. But a lot of that had to do with their experience around a ship called the Range Rover. Not the same as what we have today for Range Rover, but it was called the Range Rover. And that was one of the few remaining wheeled vehicles in the verse. By the 2500s, most of the non-spaceship transportation was very niche, if not completely gone. It took Argo to save rail, for instance. So there weren't a lot of modern wheeled vehicles that weren't used exclusively by people on the frontier. Most people there just didn't drive anymore. You no need to when you have a ship that's a personal transport. So after that, they created their own. After they got married, they decided they kind of wanted to go their own way because they both ended up working for very powerful organizations in Saisei. She worked as an engineer. He worked as sort of a business person. And they went back to the place where they met in the first place, and they decided to build their own Range Rover, the thing that brought them together, as a couple, and sort of build their own vehicle from scratch. And so they created what's known as the DX-20. The DX-20 was a very fun, very mobile, modern take on a ground vehicle, like an all-terrain ground vehicle. But it didn't do so well. But it happened in the 2541 when the First Tevaran War broke out. The army quickly realized that even though, space travel is much easier now, they still needed ground transportation because it wasn't viable to transport troops through space with the kind of content they had. They needed something for ground support as well as transportation. They found that basically all of the ground vehicles that were available were too old. And as a result, they ended up building or kind of doing a trial. And the thing that stood out the most was the DX20. It was the best, hands down, most modern, best, and was the easiest to transform. So they adopted it and gave it the military name, the Cyclone. The Cyclone is what we have today. It's what we know it as today. It is still the hallmark of all of the Tumbril's vehicles. They went on to Tumbril to basically redefine ground transportation. They, as a result of that, they ended up creating in the Second Devarn War. They created the Nova. There's lots of land vehicles were created. We have a whole list of them, but we only really know about the Storm, the Nova, and the Cyclone, and the Cyclone's many variants. Storm was also created in the Second Devarn War, but after the couple who founded it left the company, eventually Tumbril sort of lost its military contracts in the 27th century. And after the fall of the Mezzers, this is a little different now. And after the fall of the Mezzers, they lost a lot of military contracts because of their connections with the Mezzers. And they finally filed for bankruptcy in 2862. And it was purchased by just like a consolidating, a group that just bought the name and the IP. But it was in 2941, when a guy by the name of Terence Naban, whose sole job was to sort of revive dead brands or struggling brands. He was a big fan of the vehicle manufacturer. He actually owned his own Cyclones before this. And he decided to buy the brand and then restart it in 2941. And so all of the classic vehicles came back in the 2940s, and they also introduced the Ranger. We don't know if the Ranger is newer or not, but it was it's also been introduced as well. There's a headquarters. Their headquarters is in Saisei, but there is also production facilities in Centauri, Terra, and the Ella system. So they produce lots of different vehicles, especially for the military. Now, that's the story of Tumbril. Unfortunately, there's nothing on the ground. So here at IAE, ironically. But we're going to now talk a little bit about Crusader. I'm trying to remember all of the little details about Crusader. All right. So, Crusader was founded by a guy by the name of August Dunlow. He is from the Angeli system. He was an orphan who was orphaned during the Mezzer era when his parents were killed during an attack that would overthrow Ulysses Mezzer and install Linton Mezzer, the last Mezzer. He was able to be picked up off the street thanks to a orphanage program called Angeli's Angels. He studied to get into college, went to college for business, and was a really good orator and very good organizer. So he used those skills to get back at the Mezzers themselves by helping to organize the resistance in Angeli. He became so good at it that he was asked to join a bunch of other resistance cell members at a secret meeting. And unfortunately, or fortunately for him, / unfortunately for the people on board the ship, he actually got sick the day his flight was supposed to leave, and he decided not to take the flight. And the flight he was supposed to be on exploded, meaning he was targeted for assassination by the advocacy. So he was swiftly smuggled out of the UAE and lived in exile until the anti-Mezzer revolution happened, where he returned and helped to organize the resistance to overthrow the Mezzers. He went back to work for the new government to try to make the change that he wanted to see, but he found out that the government was very inefficient, and the best way of doing so was to become a corporation, because corporations had more influence and say on the UAE itself. So he looked around for a company to figure out what he could do, and using his government connections, he discovered Seraphim Systems, which was a struggling shuttle manufacturer. He went to the founder of Seraphim Systems, basically purchased the company outright, changed the name to Crusader as a compromise because the owner of Seraphim was very religious. She was very Christian, and she wanted to keep the Christian tones of the original company. And so August Dunlow wanted to compromise with them, and kind of they changed the name to Crusader as sort of a compromise. But they wanted to keep the same sort of altruistic things. The thing that August wanted to do was to actively make ships, but using those ships, the profits from those ships, to then just donate almost everything to charity. And that's kind of been Crusader's MO ever since. All of the ships they make, they sell for a profit, but then they take that profit, and like 98% of that profit goes to charity organizations, some of which they run themselves, like Crusader Cares. So they're a hyper progressive organization. But because their ships are so good, they're one of the biggest organizations, biggest companies in the UEE. Now, in 2863, Kelly Kaplan took over. Now, Kelly Kaplan was one of the lead designers behind the Genesis Starliner program, which helped revolutionize how Crusader builds ships. And to understand why Crusader is so important, we have to understand the roll and go technique, which effectively allows for Crusader to take one chassis and build variants of that chassis on the same assembly line using the same tools. Sort of a quick solution. So as a result, Kelly Kaplan, who was this engineer, was the first person to take over Crusader since August Dunlow had retired and passed away, who actually understood the company. So she is still the CEO. She is like 103 years old, but she's very important because her connection to the ship behind you, the C1 Spirit, or the Spirit. So the Spirit over here, staring at the wrong place. I have no idea if you can hear me in game or not, but the Spirit is actually the design of Kelly Kaplan. It's the first ship she designed since she became the CEO. She kept drawing ideas because she was kind of losing the passion, so she kept kind of drawing ideas and decided to take her ideas and give them to another up-and-coming designer to design something new. The person she gave it to was a notorious cleaner in Crusader, because Crusader would often purchase companies and bring them into the fold, and then all of the duplicate jobs, her job was to go around and fire people who were duplicates, or to find projects which were inefficient and were kind of losing too much money, and shut them down. So she was known as the Grim Reaper amongst Crusader engineers. So Kelly Kaplan chose her specifically to take on this new project because she knew how efficient she was, and she wouldn't mess around. She would tell her if it would make sense or not. So she gave her the job to find a shuttle that already existed in their inventory, like a frame, and then use that frame as the basis for this new ship. They found an old Seraphim Systems shuttle. They modified it and changed it so they can make it work. So they already had an existing frame. They didn't have to build a brand new one. And out of that, they built a custom ship for Kelly Kaplan, which became known as the Executive One. They always pitched around the idea of possibly selling it as its own ship, but they never did. She was the one who flew it around. She still uses it her main transportation around Orison and around other places. But it's sort of a much thicker version of the Spirit we have today. The Spirit was eventually greenlit because they were having a downfall in profits. And the downfall in profits meant that they had to figure out something to do, and the board finally greenlit Kelly Kaplan's ship for mass production. And they naming it the Spirit. They came up with an idea for a cargo variant, an executive variant, very similar to Kelly Kaplan's own executive ship, Executive One, and a bounty hunter variant. Now, the bounty hunter variant was proved to be too complicated because it had this bespoke size 7 weapon on it, and they just couldn't make it work. However, that design would go on to become what we know today as the Ares. It was started as a spirit design. It was also a bespoke design, so it was too different from the original hull to benefit from the roll and go technique. So they canceled that, but then late in development of the Spirit, when they were about to release the C1, the designers realized they could, instead of making a combat variant, they could make a bomber variant. And so they just modified the C1 into a bomber, the cargo bay into a bomber, and they got the approval. So that became the A1. The Spirit comes from the name, I believe it's the idea that this was the spirit of Crusader, like the core of Crusader, this sort of desire to design and create new things and then help things out. So that's why it's called the Spirit. So we have the C1, which is here, then the A1, which is the bomber, and the E1, which is sort of a luxury transport variant. The E1 is not out yet in the game, but the C1 and the A1 are. Let's take a look inside the C1 so you can learn a little bit. So the C1 holds 64 SCU of cargo in its internal cargo area. It has a double airlock system here. This is actually an airlock as well as the ramp. You can also carry a vehicle. I think you can carry like an Ursa. And these double airlock systems, a lot of people complain about the Crusader airlock systems, but these are systems that are designed specifically for hull integrity. One of the big things that Crusader is known for is its toughness and ruggedness. And like, it's effectively like a better designed Drake. And while people complain about these doors are directly designed to keep in atmosphere. So if there's like a hull breach, they can, or like fire, they can vent areas and not vent the whole ship. That's why you have this double airlock technology. It's all over their ships. They have these all over their larger ships. It's got 2 beds. It's got a pilot and a co-pilot. It's got a bathroom. It's got like a little kitchen, and it's got weapons racks and 2 armor cargo areas. Or utility slots. Let's go over to the Intrepid. This will be a very short tour. Cyclone size is the biggest you can fit in there? Okay. Probably put Steebs in there then. The Intrepid. Now, we don't know a lot about the Intrepid. Almost certainly the Intrepid is also a descendant of the C1 program. The Spirit program was led directly to the Inferno, and this is clearly inspired by the Inferno, so this is probably another sort of descendant of that. Crusader doesn't have a starter ship, so this is the closest they have to it. The Intrepid is one of the most modern ships they have, which tells me it's pretty new. You can see it's got a lot of like doors for that sort of thing, but it also has these 2 twin cargos, and it's got all this stuff in the back, all these engineering stuff in the back. And then we've got the cockpit up here. Again, all sort of siphoned off on their own. We'll go into here. We see it's got a suit storage. It's got lots of weapon storage and other sort of miscellaneous storage. It's got a bed. It even has its own little seating area and a bathroom. It's one of the only starter ships that have all these luxuries and amenities. It's seen as the intro level sort of design for the Crusader line, because it kind of does everything you see for like this and the Mercury Star Runner and that kind of stuff. All right, that's all we have. It's a pretty brief stuff. I mean, you can see over here, that's Intrepid. I was going to say that's a Mercury Star Runner, but it's not. You can see the Hercules in the background over there. The Hercules is another ship that they're pretty famous for, but we're not going to go over that because it's not really on the... I did an entire video on the history of Crusader that you can watch, so. If you have any questions on the floor or in Discord or in in chat, let me know. Question, what's your opinion on the new Crusader aesthetic, which is much more angular than the original, which was notable for its sweeping curves? I got no problem with the change in aesthetics. There's lots of changes that have been made by Crusader. Though I think the sweeping curves are still present, even on the newer stuff. It's just that the basic one is a little bit more angular because, you know, it's a basic. What I don't like is the direction that the lore has taken to have Crusader make the Ares. This doesn't really fit with a company who makes most of its money off of ships that are non-combat mostly. Yeah, the A1 and the A2 and the M2 are both military variants of their Hercules ships, but like, and they're designed for the military. But the M2 is sort of like,
I'm about ready too. Let's go.
kind of like a weapons upgraded Blackhawk. It's not really a designed as a weapons platform. It has weapons as a necessity. Its job is to transport. They're not like making fighters and stuff like that. They're sort of just strapping guns to everything they could to make it more safe. Yeah, so the idea that they went from that to making a fighter, a heavy fighter, doesn't make a lot of sense to me. We know the reason why they did it. It's because John Crew wanted to make a A10 Warthog ship in the Crusader aesthetics, which is one of the problems of the Star Citizen lore, is that it's because it's still in development and because there is a culture of rule of cool within CIG. That rule of cool trumps everything. There's a lot of stuff just gets changed on the whims of the designers, of the whims of the management. And there's not a lot of consistency in the details. There's a lot of the broad sweeping things are the same, but the details change frequently without any explanation. So it's a weakness. I would really hope that they kind of get a design and lore Bible written down so that it just kind of locks it in to set expectations of what 1.0 is actually going to feel like, rather than just sort of continuing this, we're going to make it if we change it and if we think it's cool sort of attitude. But I also know it's not how they get people to work for them. They get people to work for them because they give them a lot of creative freedom. Hey, it's 900 years in the future. The rule cool is everything. No, we're not even talking about 900 years. We're talking about CIG. meta lore a little bit there. Is there a C3, so even bigger than the cargo ship in the C2? There is not a C3, but there is what's known as the Jupiter. The Jupiter was their first major quantum-capable ship. It was massive. It is...
From what I've seen so far, I really think this...
It's hard to describe, but you know the shuttles you have in Crusader that take you from point A to point B, the automated shuttles? Those shuttles are about the size of the Seraphim system shuttle. And the Jupiter was designed to take those shuttles to market. And obviously you're not going to just take one or two of those shuttles. You're going to be taking dozens of those at most. So imagine a ship that can carry 12 of like effectively the Intrepids. The size of that ship would be massive. And the Jupiter was sort of the prototype for everything that would come after them. You can think of it as probably just like a very big Hercules. It was built right before the Hercules. And it was eventually adopted by the UAE Army to transport tank battalions. Do you have a video on a character? I do. I don't have a cohesive video. I do need to make a cohesive video. I have like 3 different videos stitched together, but yeah. Question, shouldn't the lore Bible be a responsibility of the archivists? Only if they listen to the archivist. The issue is any sort of like design document or lore Bible or any kind of design, that sort of like parameter setting, you have to follow it. It has to be written and it has to be followed. Those are 2 different things. And the archivist's job is to kind of collect all of the lore and put it into a way to make sure that it makes sense, that things aren't tripping over each other. But right now, Sherry's job is to get the Galactopedia working. That's her main job. And that's a lot of work. Can we see Jupiter on game? No, because CIG has gone on record saying they have no intention to making the Jupiter. They do not want to make a Jupiter. Hey, Agbard. Have the lore stuff up. Is no one talking the lore? I know. Wow, nobody's on YouTube talking. What will the Starliner become? The Genesis Starliner is just a people mover.
Even with the crowds, I definitely think the IAE is worth going to.
I'm glad you came. It's always better exploring the show with someone else.
Oh, is there anything you'd be interested in seeing from Crusader going forward, either shipwise or just general lore? I'd like to see more of the designers behind each of the ships. That's just in general. I'd like to know who the designers were, so they can kind of get a face behind all of the ship designs. But also, I'd love to see. I've had an idea for a bounty hunting ship, Cowboy Bebop, the Bebop from Cowboy Bebop sort of style ship, by Crusader, which is effectively like a mobile police station. So it can hold one like small ship, like an Avenger or a Hawk, and then you can you have like a holding cell as well as a bay for like cryo storage, but you also have like a place for food, you have a place for weapon storage. So effectively just like a place you can park and then go out and do missions and return back to and like deposit people. It's very short. They're vile. It's very short. Like this there's not a lot of ships on the floor for Crusader and for Tumbril. There's actually no vehicles on the floor for Tumbril, so the tour is very short. It is also Aegis Day. Yes, but because I didn't go on the floor for Wednesday, I had to push everything back a day. You can still rent and do all the things for Crusader and for Tumbril, and so that's why I'm doing that. And then I'm doing Aegis tomorrow. Tell me why the Redeemer is your favorite ship. Is it because of its lore, right? It's contradictory lore. Question: are the barges we see in the sky of Sky Orison Jupiters? No, they're called the Titans or the Strongbacks or something like that. They have a different name, and they're also not quantum capable. The Jupiter R is quantum capable and jump capable.
I've seen pictures of some earlier versions, and they were pretty out there.
Do I ban him, Paul? No. It's a pathetic attempt.
On to the next hall, I think.
Actually, I might stay for a while, do another loop, just to make sure I didn't miss anything.
Yeah, people have actively asked CIG about building a Jupiter since it's come up a couple times, and the ship team seems very, or at least John seemed very bitter about the idea, and he's like, "No, we have no plans. We don't want to do that." Like, okay. Ooh. Any news of the C1 getting another entrance and the ramp access? No. To be fair, we've proven that we cannot be trusted with whole season Hercs. I just think that the concept of the Jupiter is such a lore idea in the sense that they were probably using it as a way of trying to explain the design evolution of Crusader in a time when Crusader was just a manufacturer mostly for the Genesis Starliner. And the fact that they kind of evolved that into Genesis Starliner and the Hercules and sort of built it out. They wanted to have like a why there is this sort of dual use ships, of like the military ships, but also civilian ships. And the Jupiter sort of makes sense as a civilian ship designed for practical purpose, transporting stuff, because it was designed specifically so they can transport their shuttles to market. That was then sold as its own standalone ship, and then also the military adopted, sort of showing like they solve problems that they have themselves using using their own techniques and their own skills and abilities, rather than solving problems for other people. So they sort of use their stuff they make eventually becomes useful to other people because of how well it's designed. The tour's done, man. It started 30 minutes ago.
I tell you, there's nothing like being at the IAE. Looking around, seems like a lot of people are enjoying themselves.
Do you think we'll be able to fly those Crusader barges sometime? No, not until later. It's like one of those. It's nice to have, but it's probably not a huge one.
Yeah, I can see wanting to buy something like this.
I can't imagine buying one. But
Question: could there be more variants on the Intrepid in the future, like the Cutter series? Almost certainly. Do you think that we'll have a full-fledged ship based off of the Orison shuttles? People have been asking them forever to do that, but probably not, because the Orison shuttles, by their nature, don't have quantum drives. So, would you want a ship the size of the shuttles we take around Orison without a quantum drive?
Have to hit the next hall.
Most people would say no.
ready to. Let's go.
Dang, them, it was watching you on Info Runners. That was uploaded an hour ago. Or like almost an hour and a half ago. Glad you're here though. Don't worry, there'll be another tour tomorrow around the same time.
As a manufacturer, I think this might be one of their strongest showings to date.
I think they've somehow outdone themselves with their latest lineup.
That'd be a pretty short one because there's not a lot. I wonder when they're focused on bigger ships outside of RSI. That's a question for later. You just got running from work. It's okay. Yes, those are NPCs talking.
I wonder how this show's gonna compare to the last one. I love going to shows like this. Such a good chance to see all my favorite vehicles in one place.
Where are they? They'll be around here somewhere. Yeah, those are NPCs talking. The NPCs will talk in game like that. It's background audio. Well, there are.
So long to see one of these. It's even better than I thought.
I actually ran it.
And Lord, there's a library Orison, right? I mean, I'm sure there is.
Maybe you'd like it.
What's your thoughts on on not all the ships being rotated in the display? I think CIG could do it in the future where they have more rotation, but I know why. It's a technical issue. Basically, they tried to do what they usually do. They did at the end of last year, the IAE last year, and it broke. And they're just like, yeah, it doesn't work, so we have to figure something out. So the solution for what they're doing now is a solution that this is getting out of lore topic, but basically to understand how CIG builds things, CIG uses the least amount of effort possible for the largest amount of gain.
What I've seen so far, I really
So
think this is
if
manufactured.
something was broken with the rotations, they could spend a lot of time and effort figuring out what was broken with it and try to fix it, or just make a new haul. And it was just faster and easier for them to make a new haul. And I think the same thing's going to happen when they have instancing. They're just going to build a brand new solution for instancing, and I hope they bring back the rotations once they have instancing in, so like next IAE, so that it gives more people the context. Because in my opinion, this is nice, this is neat, but if you went to each of the manufacturer's own floors and you got to see all of the ships that were on display, I think more people would be, especially newer folks, would like be able to absorb the sheer volume of ships available.
You can really see the influence of some classic designers in the lines.
Seeing it in person is
They could, Drowsy. They tried that, but what they tried to do was rotate it. And when they tried to rotate it for 2 days, something broke. They tried that IAE last year, like they used to do, but it broke and it just wasn't working properly. So it'd be, you'd have it one day and then you'd have a day that had nothing and then you had a new day that have that kind of stuff.
I think I've seen enough of these. Time for the next haul. Actually, I might stay for a while, do another loop, just to make sure I didn't miss anything.
That ship in front, I'm considering buying. Astro Thoughts. What, the Intrepid? It's a good starter ship. Just expensive. Have you heard about the Tavaran Senator? Yes. Yes, I actually have. Suj Kosi. I've known about him for many times. We actually elected him. Fun fact, the players elected this Tavaran because they give us an input on who should be the senator, Suj Kosi or this other guy. But Suj Kosi was the actual Tavaran who was running for to be the senator from the Tavaran homeworld, and the other guy was a human. And Suj Kosi won.
I'm glad you came. It's always better exploring the show with someone else.
Walking on an anvil on Aegis Day was an experience. Yeah.
Seeing it in person is a lot different than I imagined.
Exactly. Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't know that. It's awesome. Yeah, don't worry about it. No, don't be apologized. You didn't know. You weren't told these things. You had to, you weren't around, which is fine. It's one of those cool things that shows you that CIG, at least early CIG, was very interested in letting the players impact the lore. We know that Daemar Reily is in lore now. It's in fiction. So is the Jumptown Wars. So like there's a lot of stuff that the players have done that has been created and has become fiction in fiction officially. They'll let us elect the Imperator. And drink a little bit.
I really appreciate that they've got some of their classic designs on display.
Oh, it's hydrating me. Beer is hydrating. Drink more beer.
Another year, another IAE. I'm not sure why I keep coming to these. Believe that I've been getting to go to these for almost a decade now.
We'll be around tomorrow for the last one. It'll be around the same time. So for those of you who have time off on the weekends.
I don't think this is as good as some of their other work.
You
should be able to equip beer bottles in a nice spot.
Actually, I might stay for a while, do another loop, just to make sure I didn't miss anything.
Best of show on the weekend. So I'm going to be doing Aegis, the Aegis manufacturer, because it's because I missed a day because of a bug in the game. So that'll be the last one. Your thoughts and predictions on the upcoming Aurora Mark II? It'll be like in terms of design and functionality. They've talked about they've been working on it for a while. I don't know if it's I know they talked about a little bit about the full rework, but I couldn't tell you. Like this, I'd say I'm going to focus on the lore here. We'll talk a little bit more about the ship stuff and more like gameplay discussions in the next segment. So.
This is the first time I've been to one of these. I'm so excited.
Does anyone know how to check how much more time you need to get a drop reward? It's not December 10th, but it's December 3rd. But yeah, you go to twitch.tv/inventory/drops. Exclamation point drops in chat. We'll give you that link. But beatage. wide age gymming. I can't say that on YouTube. We'll be moving over to do gameplay here in a few minutes. So.
Be fun to use for a weekend.
Yeah, December 3rd to earn it, but you have until the 10th to claim it.
I'm gonna go and see if I can find anything more.
Also, love your YouTube videos new to Twitch. It's all right.
That's fine. I'll catch up with you later.
Look at that. Can you fit a small hover bike on an Intrepid cargo lift system? No, I don't think so. You could probably fit the tiny one. I can't remember. I never remember the tiny one's name. The Mirai one. More speculation around Crusader is in trouble from what I've been hearing. What steps do you think they could take take sure things? The Pulse. Thank you. Thank you. The Pulse. Yeah. X1 might fit. Yeah.
This manufacturer, but still
I really appreciate
I could see Crusader going full corpo fascist sort of thing. Hey, Tay. We'll be doing one more tomorrow, so I don't know if the Nox fits. The Nox might fix. I don't think the quad or the
seems like a lot of people are
Dragonfly can fit though.
Yeah, I can see wanting to buy something like this. Actually,
Crusader Corpo Fash, yeah.
original design. I've seen pictures of some earlier versions and they were pretty out there.
You guys doing gaming activities, and so can I join? So I'm going to be doing some solo stuff here for a few hours. So, but I might be joining Loken here in a bit as well. What are the ties to religion does Crusader industry still have? Probably not much. They're still
Yeah, I'm about
they're still on paper founded under Christian principles. We don't know which denomination, just vaguely Christian. Possibly Catholic, considering it's called Crusader Industries, but we'll see. But it's a vague thing. It's not like they mandate everyone in their company be Christian and that kind of stuff. It's just vaguely
As a manufacturer,
altruistic.
this might be one of their strongest showings to date.
I think they've
Yeah, 30th century Christian.
with their latest lineup.
What do you mean by that, and how would it impact what we're seeing in game? Probably higher levels of Crusader security available. Probably more restrictions in Crusader, the Crusader as a whole. You'll see a lot more armed security around Orison, sort of thing.
How this show is going to compare to the last one I went to. I love going to shows like this. Such a good chance to see all my favorite vehicles in one place.
Because the biggest problem that they have in lore right now is it's not just Crusader, but it's all of the companies of the Stanton system, is that the UEE mandated that the companies can keep up security and reduce crime in the system. And the system right now is so bad in terms of crime. There's just so much crime in the Stanton system that the UEE has actively been investigating and has been threatening the sovereignty of the individual corporations that own all these systems, these planets, because of their lack of following up on their deal. And ironically, the one that has the worst problem about it is Crusader, because the Nine Tails are a pain in their ass. That sounds like more revenue loss prevention, than revenue generation. Yes. They want to maintain their independence because there's a lot more freedom from that independence that lets them make money.
What I've seen so far, I really think this is the manufacturer to beat this year.
I heard that their CEO is actually here in the hall. I've been keeping an eye out, but no luck yet.
Question: what corp entity is currently the most for the common good oriented, excluding Hurston? The most? It's almost Crusader, almost certainly. The reason why it's having revenue generation issues is this like you're hearing this in the hall or something like that? Or is this like where are you hearing this?
Blown away by everything on the show floor this year.
Hard to believe that I've been been getting to go to these for almost a decade now.
Cassack, yeah. Because what I've been hearing is they've been spending a fuck tons of money on security. Because I haven't listened to all of the talking shop, just the first one.
Wow, what a real beauty. You can really see the influence of some classic designers in the lines.
I would like to commend the two individuals who stood in front of you in game. Impressive dedication. What, these folks? Like all these folks? It's sort of not true because they haven't been doing IAE for it's only been in game for
Yeah, I'm about ready too.
6 years, 7 years. I think the first IAE video was 10 years ago though, 2014, when they did Jax McCleary.
Didn't really think this manufacturer was my style, but I'm kind of into what they're showing this
I
year.
did not record my sources. All right.
Yeah, they've done a good job, and knowing their full history makes what they're showing extra.
You could probably find them talk about it again. Where did you hear it? I love the C2. I'm late to the discussion, but did you say it was an older design style? The M2 was built at the beginning of the 29th century, so the 2800s. And the C2 is sort of an offshoot of that came out recently. So it's based off of an older design style, but it's a newer model.
Seems like it's gonna
A lot of ships in the Star Citizen universe are built decades, if not centuries before, but they're often the latest version of a long series of ships.
Find the credits.
Like, to give you an idea, the Aurora was first built in 2664, I want to say. It is currently 2955. So the Aurora is damn near 300 years old. But the Aurora from 2664 is not the same as the Aurora in 2955. It's just every so often they update it, like cars. There's a whole discussion I've talked about why the ships are so old in Star Citizen, and the answer is twofold. Number one, for 300 years, most of the ships, evolution sort of stopped because they were under a totalitarian regime, which was obsessed with stupid mega projects that never worked. So all the people who would be doing innovations basically ended up either in prison or fleeing the UAE, or just keeping their heads down and not actually doing what they could do.
Tip my hat to them.
And on top of that, AI is banned. So any sort of AI automation that would be benefit like efficiency, it just doesn't exist. Like every ship you see that's being flown is being flown by a human because AI is outright banned. So humans need these pesky things called food and water. They need to sleep. So production is, or like supply lines are limited by the number of and skill of
It's always better exploring the show.
the haulers, and you have to pay those haulers money, which means it's expensive to design something new. It can often take years, if not decades, to build a new ship hull, and then it's a risk to even sell them in the first place. So often they'll take the less risky venture of simply taking an existing ship hull and modifying it and updating it.
Wow, look at this beauty. How fun would it be to own one?
I actually rented one of these. Wasn't for me, but maybe you'd like it.
That's all right, Iris. So what you're saying is we're getting a tuned-up RR Mark 1 and the new Mark 2 version? Possibly. I haven't listened to that thing, so I don't know what they're talking about. Because we do know that they were working on a updated version of the Aurora. Well, I think it's fair to consider my statement as a synthesis for various wild lines, like the Thorn reference, like Thorn references. Now that I've read my Galactopedia drives, it says that I've heard, and I think I've heard Astro say. It would be interesting to know if there's a revenue generation issue, because that might just be a compounding issue from their security, because they've had to triple their security budget compared to what it used to be before. So it's much more expensive for them to protect Orison, and thus, because of that, they're likely just bleeding money.
Hard to believe that the same manufacturer makes all of these. Pretty impressive.
I can see why some people love this style, but it's not for me.
You can turn both. Okay, yeah. Like I said, I haven't watched that video yet. I plan on doing that today. The NPCs were talking about the potential of Crusader having to sell to Shubin. Oh, that would make sense. It's a weird idea, but it could make sense. Shubin is very powerful.
After one of these, I'm so excited.
This year's pretty good. Should have seen the last year, though. That was a show.
They're all javelins today? Yeah, they're going to have a lot of different drops, so.
Stuff like this is exactly why I love going to the IAE so much.
I can't imagine buying one, but it would definitely be fun to use for a weekend.
So, how long do we see Crusader mining and salvage ships? Not a clue.
Actually, I might stay for a while, do another loop, just to make sure I didn't miss anything.
It'd be a big deal if the one of the biggest companies in the verse was acquired by Shubin Interstellar. It's two massive companies being kind of absorbed into each other. That would be a huge deal. I think Shubin has a DC somewhere in Stanton. I don't know where though.
But still a pretty solid showing. I heard that their CEO is actually here in the
And Greycat definitely does. Greycat definitely.
eye out, but no luck yet.
All right, thank you all for joining us in game. I'm going to move over to the last little bits in the office area. So,
That was a show.
thank you all. Someone get John Crew high and pitch him on an Shubin Industrial. A very short tour, but yeah, it was nice. I thought you meant CIG had to triple their cybersecurity project. No. Talking about Crusader. Did you talk about the lots of ship talk episode? Not yet. I'm going to do that tonight. We're going to watch the video, so. But in the meantime, I'm going to do a little bit of Star Citizen game because I haven't played the game in a bit. So we're going to wrap this up here on YouTube. We're going to move over to my other channel, the AstroPub Live on Twitch or on YouTube, where I do gaming content in my office hours. So for those of you who just watch me for the lore stuff, I do talk about the game. I talk about like updates, news, and that kind of stuff. So let's talk about lore there. So let me just do that round out here. Thank you for watching. I'll be back tomorrow for those of you on the lore side to do one more lore tour before we finish the lore tours for the event. I'll also be doing my Captain's Table podcast after that. And then if we get more subs and stuff like that, we'll go beyond that and do a giveaway. So thank you for watching. Thank you for joining. And like I say every time, hope to see you someday in the black.